Welcome to the Too Much Test podcast. I'm Tesher Levels. This is David Demesquita. Sam has had to do something else, or maybe he's just at the gym getting even more jacked. And we're going to have a special guest for you on the next episode. Well, what's going on, David? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. We were actually talking about L-Carnitine. I know you're a big fan of L-Carnitine, and I'm sure you know more about it than me, but I just got I got my first bottle of L-Carnitine. I got it from Empower, and I was actually going to let you guys know you can get it from Defy Medical. You don't have to be a patient of theirs. You can order it from their store. You just have to sign up for an account. Pretty cool. So if you're looking for that, it's pharmaceutical grade. I've done 2 injections of it so far, 1 ml in each delt, and I have not gotten any pip. And I was really surprised because I know with most L-Carnitine, for whatever reason, you get pretty bad pip. So what is your experience with L-Carnitine?
Yeah, so my experience with like the PIP that you're talking about, the post-injection pain, it is a very real thing. In fact, there's a company that was Synthetech that had the only one that I didn't really get PIP from, and it was 200 milligrams per milliliter. So you're having to do like milliliters of it.
Yeah.
That's the issue with it, right? So most of these companies, they do like 500 milligrams per milliliter or 600 milligrams per milliliter. And I've heard the worst horror stories from people. In fact, like you're like this one. One of my friends actually started manufacturing his own just because it's relatively cheap to make. And honestly, it was lower. So from what I understand, it's a lower post-injection pain than like things like Amino and all these big companies that are making it, that people are complaining about how bad it is. And it was miserable, honestly.
Really?
It was pretty bad. And that was his was 500 milligrams per milliliter. Well, I switched to a compounding pharmacy as well. You and I both, like we have it on script. Well, I actually have a script for it. I think you have a script for it as well, right?
It was like Empower, like just created the script, but it's not like I've never talked to Empower.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So I actually got it scripted to me and I wanted to try it out. I want to see if it reduced it because it's 500 milligrams per milliliter. And you and I have actually had the same experience where like it kind of is painful to inject it originally, but there's no injection post pain. That's the thing that was really bad. Is like the inflammation, the post pain was always really bad with these other companies besides Synthetech. Synthetech's the only one that I found that I didn't have an issue with. But like I said, it's 200 milligrams per milliliter, so the density of it's a lot less. But so you're sitting there and putting in like 3 milliliters.
I would not do that every day. There's no way in hell I would do that.
No, and I think that's what we were also talking about. So we can talk about dosages and frequency of use. Now, every 50 pounds, you should be using 200 milligrams per milliliter.
Really?
Yes. So theoretically, we should be running more. I do notice enough of a difference at 500 milligrams per milliliter. Even being 200 pounds, I should theoretically be running 800 milligrams per milliliter. And that's just like science-based. Now, the thing about it is you want to do it every day. Well, or maybe days that you train. Usually it's only days that I train. I do take 2 days a week off if I'm training 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of devils in the details when it comes with L-Carnitine, such as the delivery of it. And this is what you and I have talked about. And it sounds crazy. This part sounds crazy. Do you want me to dive into it a little bit?
Absolutely. Go for it. This was interesting to me. This was really interesting.
All right. So this is what people don't talk about. One, if you're trying to get L-Carnitine orally, you're not going to. There's a threshold of taking at 3,000 milligrams orally is the max the body can handle, and you only get a 5% return on your investment. So
you got to go through your liver, oral bioavailability. Just not good it's not the bioavailable orally.
Absolutely. So L-Carnitine orally is a sham. So don't waste your money on it. And then the other thing is that when you take L-Carnitine, it has to be paired with an insulin response. Now, the issue with pairing it with an insulin response is usually you're taking L-Carnitine for fat mobilization. That's essentially what it's known for and what it's used for. There's a lot of other benefits that come with it, but that's the one that we're going to use it for. Well, how do you get an insulin response that is going to put you up to I believe the measurement that they run it on blood work is going to be 90 nanograms per deciliter, right? Mm-hmm. Every person is going to be different based off of their insulin sensitivity, right? So if you're more overweight, then you're going to be more insulin resistant, most likely. If you're on paper, right?
Yeah.
So we have blood work back that like 20 grams of highly branched cyclodextrin, so bypass the liver, so you get a faster insulin response and delivery of it, pulled you to around like a 20 nanogram per deciliter marker, right? So you would have to do minimum, like paired with that L-carnitine, when you take it, about 100 grams of carbohydrates minimum, right? So that may be 200 grams for some people. It might be 300 grams. It just depends, like, on how much insulin your pancreas will actually secrete, and then you start to drive that L-carnitine into the cells. Well, what's the other way that you can get an insulin response? Insulin.
Yeah.
So 2 IUs of insulin most likely is going to get you to that marker. Now, I do not recommend running insulin, you guys. So let me just clarify that beforehand.
Yep.
But
and we're not doctors. This is not medical advice in any way. This is purely bro science. So don't do anything like this.
Yeah. So L-carnitine, in theory, has to be paired with insulin. It's the only good way to move it, to shuttle it. And people are going to sit here and try to argue that there are some like oral L-carnitines that work well. They don't. It's kind of like saying oral NAD plus works. It doesn't. It's just the bioavailability is not there. And then on top of it, even if it did make it through orally, which is that 5% yield ratio, then you have to pair it with a strong insulin response, not a insulin response, a strong insulin response.
So are you saying, so when you're talking about taking the insulin with the L-carnitine, is that just orally? You're saying that you just take the insulin if you're taking oral, but if you're taking injectable, since it's going to pass the liver, you don't need to have that as huge an insulin response, or just across the board L-carnitine insulin?
L-carnitine insulin.
Interesting. So you're saying that for me, because I don't have insulin, that I should do my shot, jam a Mountain Dew to get my pancreas cranking out some insulin?
And see, that's the issue, right? Like that's the issue. It's like, it's that cash, like that double-edged sword. It's like, how many carbohydrates you actually have to get to that threshold, and then are you even burning body fat based off of how many carbs you're putting in, right?
Yeah,
if
200 grams of carbs, that's a lot of carbs. That's like 4 Mountain Dews.
Exactly, right? And then you're gonna have an insulin crash, so it doesn't even matter, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna make myself diabetic and not lose weight. But the other medicine I'm taking is Lipo-C, and I should have grabbed the bottle just to see what's in it. But it's commonly sold for weight loss. It's also injectable, 1 ml, usually twice a week. Let me go grab that real quick. We'll make a little cut.
Yeah, absolutely. One man, one baseball bat.
We are always prepared on the Too Much Test podcast. That's why I remember to grab this bottle, and that's not why I had to cut the audio or the video. So this is Lipo-C, and once again, I got this from Empower. I believe this was 95, and I believe the L-carnitine was 75, but this has chloride in it, or I'm sorry, methionine, inositol, choline, chloride, 50 milligrams of carnitine, B1 and B5. And I think you were talking about B5 in the last one for losing weight as well. I think Sam was saying something about it.
I think Sam brought it up. I actually don't know that much about B5 or B1. I know B2 is riboflavin, which can help with headaches and stuff like that. Some of the B vitamins help with methylation. Some of the B vitamins help with adrenals. But B1 and B5 are not the ones off the top of my head that help with adrenals at all.
I'm assuming if they're in here and this is sold for weight loss, those are probably ones that have been shown in some way to help with that.
Yeah.
But this is, I'm going to actually research a lot of these and just check them out. But this one was the injection. It wasn't 100% clear. It was kind of like, I don't know, frosted looking, I guess. And the L-carnitine, very similar. And me and you were talking that this is dissolved in water. All else it has is benzyl alcohol. So it's just benzyl alcohol, water, and L-carnitine. But there's a fucking half a gram in each milliliter. So that's a lot of powder. I actually watched a dude on YouTube home brew the L-carnitine. He bought the thing from bulk supplements and weighed it out, and then did it with the water, and then he got the syringe filter, and he's just sitting there just cranking on it, and it's just like dripping through. And he did that for like 30 milliliters.
Wow, I didn't realize that it was that easy to make. I thought you literally had to get some type of special sterilized L-carnitine or something like that to do it.
I mean, listen, I mean, he was just a guy on YouTube. So I mean, he could have gotten like an infection, a week later and died. We don't know. But I mean, I can't see it being that. I mean, I'd still be sketched out because you're opening up a fucking food processing bag and scooping stuff out and then injecting it into your arm.
Yep.
I would assume that like when someplace like Empower or a compounding pharmacy gets it, it's got to go through some type of sterilization process or something like that.
Yeah. By the way, inositol powder or inositol is in there. Inositol, by the way, and you want to do your research on this one. It almost reads out to being like growth hormone. That's how good it is. That's how beneficial it is for the body. So inositol is actually abundant in fruit. I don't know what it's in a lot of fruit. It's not like one specific fruit or anything like that, but it's one of the few non-bioavailable, like it's essentially like a micronutrient, so to speak.
You're saying this is in L-Carnitine or
it's in that Lipo-C that you just read. The one that you had struggled to read. It was like the second ingredient. Inositol.
Oh, inositol. Yeah. Let's see.
I'm probably saying it wrong, but I've been taking inositol powder for actually 5 years.
Really?
It is amazing. It's like one of my like hidden weapons, like one of my secrets. It's like helps with insulin resistance. It helps with cellular regeneration. It helps with dude, just read about it. It's like there's no downsides to it either. And you can take it orally actually, but it's not bioavailable in fruit. So you have to literally take it when it's extracted out essentially in either powdered form, I guess injectable form too. I mean, I guess they have everything oral and injectable form nowadays.
Yeah.
But it is phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, no downside to it. It actually helps with if you superdose it, it can help with panic disorder. It can help with cognitive functionality. So to preventing ADHD, I have ADHD.